that. First, though, he sold over 53 million records. He shared the stage with musical royalty, including B.B. King, the great Ray Charles, and the Three Tenors. And today, Michael Bolton is singing for us.
Yes, but first, a little reminder of all the tunes that you'll know and love.
Tell me how am I supposed to live without you? Do you want it? One sweet dream. Take your heart and make it sing. 'Cause love is a wonderful thing. Need it. Oh, you need it. Oh, you need it. Sometimes I'm tears I've been really loving we can make a love. How can we be lovers if we can't be lovers?
There he is, strutting his thing on stage there, and he's with us in the studio today. Good to see you, Michael.
And only one mouth.
And only one mouth and no drink problem. You sound sometimes as if you've got two, because you're quite different what you do with a lot of those tunes. Because you take classics and you take a lot of stuff that, you know, that R&B stuff, and you've made it very much your own, haven't you?
Well, I've tried, and to, you know, I mean, being inspired and influenced by people like Ray Charles when I was a kid. You know, the great Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, who I saw last night in concert here. By the way.
No, that's what we missed. We should have been doing that. Because you never go out anywhere. That's
really, really amazing. I'll see if he can stop by your house and sing.
Could you? That would be lovely.
He was just staggering and inspiring. And then, you know, you learn from the masters, and that makes you a better artist. And it also then makes it accessible to people, like the Otis Redding classic. I recorded Dock in the Bay 20 years after Otis had the hit with it, and it reintroduces the song. And then the family comes to your shows, and you get to meet them and hear the history of the great artists, you know. Who
and wasn't it Tina Turner who said she thought you were a brother?
She did. Yes, she did. Yeah. You know, I was just, you know, just basically shaking, talking to her. But you know, I was such a big fan of hers, and you get to meet some of the people who were inspiring you, including B.B. King, and from, you know, from them to Pavarotti, singing with Pavarotti and Domingo, and coincidentally, when I sang with Pavarotti, Princess Di was in the audience. I never thought about it. At the moment, it was enough. I had my hands full with singing next to Pavarotti and doing these Italian arias, and he was gracious and supportive. But in retrospect, you know, I met Princess Di there at the event and spoke to her after the show, and she was just, you had to love her. I mean, she was just gracious and looked you in the eyes and was lovely. And I think back about all the years, and it's all about music, but it opens doors to so many other things you can do in your life.
Well, look, we've opened our phone lines
we
this
have,
morning.
and they've been ringing off the hook for you, ringing off the hook for you this morning. All your fans. Jane in Nottinghamshire. Morning, Jane. She said you've duetted with quite a few people. Anybody in the UK that you would really like to duet with? Someone of our British artists?
Corinne Bailey Rae.
Oh,
She's great.
Love to do a duet with her. Love to sing with her. Very soulful, beautiful voice, pure tones. Billie Holiday influenced, you know. You know, there are a few more. We'll see, you know.
She's top of your list at the moment.
Yeah, I'd love to do something.
But in fact, people are watching, they'll be on the phone as we speak.
Now, you get a few fans. I'm sure when you go on stage there, you get things thrown to you. On stage, Cliff Richard gets roses, Tom Jones gets underwear. And Dan from Cornwall says, what's been the most embarrassing present you've ever been given or sent from a female fan?
Tom Jones underwear. No, I don't. I just started. I'm a big Tom Jones fan, actually. He's never thrown his underwear. There are just some things that you can't really identify that get thrown on stage, and that's really kind of awkward. And so I just very carefully hold them up and let other people make the analysis.
Just don't know where they've come from.
What is this and where has it been?
Now this, I'm sure, is a very difficult one. I don't even you could even answer it, actually. What is your? This is Maria. Morning, Maria. What's your favourite song that you've ever recorded?
Said I loved you, but I lied. Well, my favorite, no, it's true. It's a very, very big hit for me. It was Mutt Lange, legendary producer who wrote it with me. It's my favorite recording. The favorite song itself is Nessun Dorma, the Puccini masterpiece. I learned it to sing it with Pavarotti, and then I just fell in love with it. And I perform it almost every night. I dedicate it to Pavarotti now that he's gone. I still think he's the greatest tenor ever. It's the most powerful moment for me on
You
stage.
see, when we see someone like you, we wouldn't necessarily classify you or see you in a singing range, tenor or alto or anything like that. Do you classify yourself in a range?
Now I do. I didn't until I started studying to sing these arias, and I studied with someone who teaches classical vocals, and they said, well, you're a tenor. You have a high C. You have above a high C. Now we have to make it so it's comfortable for you to hold this note, and then how to learn, you know, the proper discipline. And it taught me, and singing with tenors, singing with Domingo and Carreras. I had to sing with Carreras because it was the trifecta. You know, it was all three tenors at one point. I just recently did that, but to see the discipline and how they lived to support, you know, their voices, and the demand that they put on their voices was really inspiring. And kind of,
What about
you know, it was
yours?
a new life for
Do
me.
you
Absolutely.
sing every day? Do you have to practice, use your voice every
Pretty
day?
much every day, and then we, you know, kind of religiously work before a show. You do all these exercises, which is the equivalent of a soccer player stretching before a game.
Yes.
You can't just go out there and do it. You have to be prepared to do it.
Let me ask you this though, perfection. You go into the studio, you record albums all the time and it's perfection. You go over and over and over again until you get it right. Don't you put huge pressure on yourself that when you come on tour, the way you're going to be here in October, that it doesn't match the album?
I'm going to be here in October.
Oh, are you?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
I
you
am.
Oh, are you? You're right. Oh,
I can
good.
tell you when. You're starting on the 6th of October in Brighton.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're going all around the country and you end up finishing on the 27th of October in London.
But will you sound like your album or not?
I'm always, my goal is to sound better than the album. The albums, the producers I work with, you know, from David Foster to Mutt Lange and Walter A., they're all the top tier, like AAA, you know, producers. They demand a lot out of you. They worked with, you know, all the greats through the years. And so that in the studio we can, there's a better chance of achieving perfection because you can keep going at it until you say, that's the take.
Yes.
But live, something more powerful happens because you have the audience giving you something back, and the next level emotionally happens, and there's no comparison at that point.
And what about the audiences here? Do they differ from
They're
anywhere
phenomenal
else?
because one of the things I didn't expect in the UK was, for some reason I had it in my head that it would be a staid audience. You know, it would be like kind of like the New York City audience who's seen everything, and I just always felt until I started touring here that they were going to be saying, you know, that was very nice.
Yeah.
Next song, please. You know, and the opposite. There's an emotional outpouring because I think people feel the permission
Yes.
to really feel and express
There's
themselves.
probably more pants per square foot here thrown on stage than in America. Questions like this. Here's one. Will you be wearing your tight blue jeans? We're going to see you in Sheffield. Your tight blue jeans. I've got tight blue jeans. They're not deliberate though. They're just the way they are.
Sheffield, yes, we will. Yes, in Sheffield. Yes.
Tight blue jeans.
Oh, only because the request. And who's requesting it? By the
No,
way?
just it's anonymous.
Yeah.
Somebody who's so embarrassed by the request they haven't put their name. It says a
But they
viewer.
know.
Right.
But they'll be in Sheffield, so look out for them. They're
Yeah,
probably at
well,
the
hopefully
front.
they won't be too tight because we're, you know, I'm on a routine now. I'm working out a lot. So.
Okay. You've achieved so much, says Debbie. Have you any ambitions left?
So many. I mean, there's so many things. I recorded a blues album that will come out down the road, but only at the right time, and those are my roots. I played with some of the best players in the world for that record. I've done another big band CD, but the primary focus right now is this new CD that's about to come out. That'll come out probably by Valentine's Day, where I'm working with a lot of young artists, young writer producers,
yes.
the new hot guns, the Neo.
Oh, he's
The
great.
producer of Corinne Bailey Ray, Lady Gaga, who, if you haven't heard of her yet,
No.
Lady Gaga, hot.
Oh, I look forward to that.
All these
Sounds
young
fabulous.
Today we're looking forward to what? Briefly, what are you going to sing for us at the end of the show?
I'm going to do one of the biggest hits I ever recorded, which is When a Man Loves a Woman.
Wow,
it's
it's
a
a lovely
great
meeting,
song.
Michael.
Great meeting as well.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you very much, Steve.
I hope you have
We'll
a
take a
fantastic
break.
tour.
We'll be having a drink at the bar with the pub landlord right after this.